Some partnerships define an era, like Sachin and Saurav, Hayden and Gilchrist, Jayasuriya and Kaluvitarana. But every now and then, it throws up a moment so fleeting, so very quiet, you almost actually miss the poetry in it. And today's story is about one such moment, isn't it?
Yeah, and this one is not even remembered for the partnership. It was a really memorable match, although like many Indian fans might have fond memories of it. It's remembered for Yuvraj Singh's coming of age, Zahir Khan's debut, India beating a near invincible Australia team. But there was something else in this story, just for a few overs, that felt like a baton being passed to the next generation.
Two left-handers from two different generations, but the same player. We were almost at a crossroads, one career beginning, one trying to find its way back in, but nearing its end. Perhaps not many fans of the game would remember this brief phase during a game.
Yes, right. So let's go back to 2000. Nairobi, India versus Australia, the ICC knockout trophy. Welcome back to Chronicles of Cricket, episode 3 with me, Debjit, and Robin. You are gonna love this story. We are in the late 90s here, and Indian cricket was in a strange place. The match fixing scandal had just exploded. Azhar was gone. We were rebuilding. Ganguly had just taken over as a captain. A new kind of aggression was coming in. Do you have memories of that phase, Robin?
Oh yeah, absolutely. As in, with that transition came a batch of fearless young names: Yuvraj Singh, Zahir Khan, Mohammad Kaif. They didn't really carry the baggage of the past, so it was an exciting phase, to be honest.
Yeah, and yet in that very squad there was one name from the old world, one you wouldn't expect to be sharing the stage with Yuvraj, and it was Vinod Kambli.
I was actually quite honestly surprised to see him back. I mean, Kambli was a prodigy in the early 90s, incredible. I absolutely adored him. But by the 2000s, he was a ghost of his potential. Injuries, inconsistency, off-field drama. He had almost vanished, man.
Yeah. But here he was again, like picked again for the team, for one final redemption chance perhaps. And in Nairobi, the most unlikely thing happened. The two found themselves together in the crease.
Now let's just pause here. Both were southpaws, both oozed flair, but what a contrast. Yuvraj, young, brash, chewing gum casually, aura like a seasoned batter, no pressure at all when you see him. Kambli, on the other hand, one of the most exciting left-handers you can see, one of the most exciting left-handers in the country, is now older, more subdued, with that distant look in his eye.
Right, and Yuvraj, he was playing his second match, but he hadn't batted in international cricket yet. For Kambli, this was probably, as I said, was the last shot at international cricket.
Yeah, and together they had actually faced Australia's fire-breathing pace attack. McGrath, a young Brett Lee, Jason Gillespie.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah, and at India were batting first, and at 90 for 3, things weren't that stable. And there, under the Nairobi sun, the two batters at opposite ends of their journey sort of came together in a very poetic way. So before we proceed, Robbie, let me ask you a question. So have you ever played with a senior you admired, but who was kind of in their fading phase? Like you could feel the end was sort of nearing.
To be very honest, Debjit, as in I've battled with some of my heroes growing up, right? And I've lived my dreams of batting with the likes of Sachin Tendulkar, Rahul Dravid, Saurav Ganguly, Virender Sehwag, all of these guys, right? So for me, to say they were fading, they were not fading. But seniors, yes, they were for sure, and they were people I actually looked up to. Maybe in the first class game, yes, I batted a few times with people who were on their way out, but at the international level was mostly guys who were there and were central figures of cricket at that point in time. So for me, I remember my debut game batting with Rahul Bhai. He was the captain of the Indian team, and batting with him, incidentally, we both are from the same school. So he passed out 5 years before I joined the school. So there's always a legacy attached. And to have two Josephites batting together when I was playing my debut, making my debut, and putting up a partnership. There's stuff I actually visualized doing, right? As a kid, I visualized batting with Rahul Dravid and thinking, wow, two Josephites batting together. Imagine if we had a 150-run partnership. And I'd be visualizing on a hanging ball doing that. And that actually happened with me. And the first time we batted together, I think it was a 160-run partnership or something like that. A 150-run partnership for sure. And it was on my debut. So for me, I've actually lived the dream of batting with my heroes, and it's just very grateful for it.
Yeah, it must have been a real amazing experience, like stuff of dreams. And like growing up as a young cricketer making mark in international cricket, would you say it's harder to sort of make your debut with a senior star at the other end, or you'd want a contemporary mate, like someone with whom you have played a lot of cricket in junior cricket at the other end? Which one would be like
To be very honest, it would depend a lot on the senior and how they are and how they treat you while you're batting in the middle. And I was like, all of these guys were so amazing. Rahul Bhai was really cool. Sachin Paji was really cool. Batting with him was literally like a masterclass in building partnerships, reading bowlers, strategizing, all of it, right? So with Dada also was the same. With UV also was the same. You know, there's so much planning that goes on. Who are you gonna attack? Who will you attack? And you know, who I'll take on? Who can you take on? Having those conversations. They're all fun, like so value additional, educational, strategizing, and you suddenly get into the minds and the mind of the geniuses that we all kind of admire are revealed, and you appreciate the genius in them, which is just truly phenomenal.
Yes, it's very interesting to hear how the match situation, how the other player is, regardless of the seniority level, sort of dictates the comfort level of the batter who is like trying to make a mark in international cricket. Yeah, really interesting. So now let's get back to the match itself. India's start wasn't bad at all. So Sachin and Ganguly, they came out attacking a quick fire 66-run stand.
Yeah, they really went after the Australian pace attack really early on. Sachin Paji, I remember, really took on Glenn McGrath to the cleaners, danced down the wicket, and hit him for a 6 over the top, then hooked him for another 6, I think outside of that Nairobi ground, and even like engaged in a verbal duel, man. It was new India. I loved it. I loved how when Paji gets aggressive, right? Oh my God, that's just stuff of dreams for me. Like it's gold dust.
Right.
But the Aussies, they always strike back, and bang bang, they actually struck back. First Sachin was gone for 38, and then Ganguly fell soon after. Both set, both got out. It was tough.
Yeah, and right at that moment the pressure crept in, and in walked Vinod Kambli, with that familiar swagger. But you could feel the tension because he was also under a lot of pressure from the personal front of trying to make a mark again in international cricket.
Yeah, he was practically walking into a minefield. Gillespie was in rhythm, Lee was bowling tight lengths, and he was actually bowling really quick also at that point in time. And barely 14 runs later, another wicket, Rahul Dravid gone for 9. Suddenly India were 90 for 3. And back in that time, we were always like, it was so heavily dependent on Sachin, Saurav and Rahul that and Dravid, that we always felt like if these three get out, then oh my God, how will we win the match? Exactly. Briefly, we had Robin Singh in there, who played that role, who gave us hope. Ki yaar, here's another man who could win matches for us. But it heavily was dependent on this guy, on these three guys.
Yeah, exactly. And you always feared that middle order collapse if the top order got out cheaply. And so this is where Yuvraj Singh walked in, just 18 years old, had never batted in an ODI before, and now he had to save India from another middle order collapse and against the world champions. So it was an
it's actually pretty wild. It's actually pretty wild when you think about it. Kambli and Yuvraj, both lefties, both flair players, but both on very different timelines. Kambli needed to prove he still belonged. Yuvraj didn't even know what the world expected of him and what was expected of him in the world of cricket, right? As in, he was just coming in. 18 years old, man. He was practically a prodigy, right? And he brought in that flair, right? He brought in that flair and then some.
And what followed was a modest 40-run partnership between them. But it wasn't just about the batting. It was like a passing of the torch, wasn't it?
Yeah, and UV batted exactly how you saw him at the highest state of his potential batting. It's like he was batting and playing international cricket for years now. It looked like that. The nonchalant flick of Gillespie, the elegant pull of Ian Harvey. Like, it's not normal for an 18-year-old.
Yeah. And Kambli, on the other hand, he just rotated the strike. He played second fiddle. It was like he almost knew that this was Yuvraj's stage now.
Yeah, perhaps also pressure at that point in time that he had to perform. So it probably felt okay. Playing second fiddle, was important to do, especially when you needed a partnership. So some of these great players actually read the game really well, and then they're like, okay, this is a situation. He's scoring runs. Let's what does the team need now? It needs a partnership. So let me just continue this game of holding one end up, rotating the strike, so that we can build a partnership and come back into the game. So the duo puts on 40 runs together, gives some amount of stability to the innings before Kambli's caught behind by the bowling of Steve Waugh, of all people. It was an unfortunate soft dismissal, but UV continues, and he continues in so much style.
And he ended up with 84 of 80 balls, made it look like gully cricket. India posted 265, and in the second innings, what a great bowling and fielding effort. Zahir Khan's swing, Yuvraj's run out. Australia, the world champions, the Invincibles, they were knocked out of the tournament.
And that was the turning point, wasn't it? The dressing room buzz changed. You could feel that something was beginning to shift in Indian cricket.
Yeah. And amidst all that chaos, that 40-run partnership barely got a mention, and obviously it got forgotten. But it was history being made, and very quietly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Kambli didn't last very long after that in international cricket. He played a few more matches in Sharjah, and then the horror show.
Yeah. India all out for 54 against Sri Lanka. Still our lowest ODI score in Sharjah. Chaminda had really rattled the Indian top order that day. Kambli ended up making just 3 runs on that day, and that was his last match, the final nail for his international career.
And that's the thing about cricket, isn't it? Often great careers end just like that, without any grand farewell. It's quite sad.
Yeah. And Yuvraj, on the other hand, he went on to become one of India's most loved white ball match winners. The 2002 NatWest final, the 2007 T20 World Cup, 2011 World Cup player of the tournament, and one of the most celebrated players in Indian cricket history.
I know. And while for Kambli, his story just became a cautionary tale. A stylish and incredibly talented batter who still had really good international figures, but the bar was so high for him, it felt like it wasn't enough. I truly believe that he had so much potential. He probably had as much to offer in international cricket as probably as Sachin Tendulkar had to offer. But just life, I guess.
Yeah. So it's always a story of what could have been with him. And so basically the flair that India once admired in Kambli, they found again in a young batter called Yuvraj, and this time it stuck. The talent was eventually realized.
Yeah, and when people talk about Nairobi 2000, they talk about the win, UV's knock, Zahir Khan's spell, but there's something else buried in the middle of all of it.
Yes, a moment that cricket rarely gives. 2 left-handers, one fading, one blooming, together for just a few years, but it was like when 2 eras of Indian cricket collided for a very brief while, and it's kind of an iconic moment.
Cricket gives us drama, but sometimes it gives us poetry.
Yeah, and you have heard that poetry right here on Chronicles of Cricket.